chapter of 2 Corinthians reminds us of the interwoven responsibilities of covenantal relations, responsibilities not only to one another, but to Christ, who has made such relationships possible. 2 Corinthians 3, 1-11. Are we beginning to commend ourselves again? Surely we do not need, as some do, letters of recommendation to you or from you, do we? You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, to be known and read by all. And you show that you are a letter of Christ, prepared by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. Such is the confidence that we have through Christ toward God. Not that we are competent of ourselves to claim anything as coming from us. Our competence is from God, who has made us competent to be ministers of a new covenant, not of letter, but of spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. Now, if the ministry of death, chiseled in letters on stone tablets, came in glory so that the people of Israel could not gaze at Moses' face because of the glory of his face, a glory now set aside, how much more will be the ministry of the Spirit, which comes in glory? For if there was glory in the ministry of condemnation, much more does the ministry of justification abound in glory. Indeed, what once had glory has lost its glory, because of the greater glory. For if what was set aside came through glory, much more has the permanent come in glory.
And our gospel reading comes from the Gospel of Matthew, the 6th chapter, beginning with the 19th verse. This is from Jesus' teachings. Jesus said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Holy wisdom, holy words. Thanks be to God. So we are continuing with our study of the UCC and talking today about covenant. Now, we've talked about covenant a few times, but the idea of covenant and covenantal relationships are at the heart of who the UCC is. And it is so important that we live through this. So I think it's important for you to really understand how we live this out in all of the settings. So within a congregation, when a member joins our congregation to be part of us, we covenant together. They covenant to be part of us and part of our work, and we covenant to support their growth and care, right? And then this congregation covenants with the association, which is the next level, and the association covenants with the conference, which is the next level, and the conference covenants with the national office. And it's all this way. None of it's this way. We do not have a hierarchical structure, which is why I say it's a flat polity, because we are just called to be in relationship with each other. So I'm going to just read through these words out of the Constitution of the UCC. So within the United Church of Christ, the various expressions of the church relate to each other in a covenantal manner. Each expression of the church has responsibilities and rights in relation to the others. That's true on all levels. Yes, we have this covenant and we're in this relationship, but that relationship is based on rights and responsibilities. to the end that the whole church, everyone together, seeks God's will and to be faithful to God's mission. Decisions are made in consultation and collaboration. Very, very consensus building words among the various parts of the structure. As members of the body of Christ, each expression of the church is called to honor and respect the work and ministry of each other part. That's how we work within this church. We have our 6 commissions, all of which have their own special work that they do, special jobs that they do, but we do it together for the greater body of Church of the Apostles. And each expression of the church listens, hears, and carefully considers the advice, counsel, and requests of others. In this covenant, the various expressions of the United Church of Christ seek to walk together in all God's ways. What is really striking to me about this one is that it says, listens, hears, and carefully considers. Because sometimes we listen without hearing, right? We listen so that we can start prepping our response without really hearing what's being said, without taking the time to process how that person came to that, how that would affect us if we adopt their position. We have to think through all of those things. How does that relate to us? Does that work for me? How can I support that person where they are? How can I love them even if they agree or believe in something that is absolutely oppositional to where I am? That's church. And that's not happening anywhere else. Right? This idea of covenant is under the basis of it is that we are better together than alone. And most of us would agree with that. But there seems to be something within us that wants to group ourselves. We like to group with people who look like us and talk like us and think like us because that's comfortable. If everybody agrees, then it's just, there's a sense of safety and security in that. But that's not God's kingdom. God's kingdom challenges us to be with others who believe oppositionally from us. One of my favorite lines, this just came to me, so we're going with it. One of my favorite lines, my favorite movie is The American President. And my favorite line in that movie is at the end, is near the end when Michael Douglas, who's playing the president, stands up and says, America is about standing up for the rights of the person who believes and says the exact opposite of what you believe. Because we are all in this together. That's not, don't quote me, because that's not a quote. That's not word for word. I'm not good at that. But that's the sense of it. And that's what the church is meant to be too. But we are living in a time of tribalism, when everybody is isolating themselves and only associating with people who have the same political party or stance on an issue, and we're dividing and dividing and dividing. The church has done this for thousands of years. We are terrible at being together. And yet God is calling all of us. The future is going to be about all the churches, all the people all over the world working together. And we've got to figure out how to do that. That's part of the challenge that we have as people in our lives, is how do we get closer to that? Because that's God's kingdom or kingdom. Because God's kingdom is not about power or money or weapons. It's about working together. It's about holding each other's hands and saying, I'm here for you, and knowing that someone's going to be there for us too. And so together, we come together and we just take that next step. Another movie image that comes to my mind is, and now I can't tell you the name of, Harrison Ford is the actor, and it's the Holy Grail, and he's going after the Holy Grail, and there is, I call it a ravine. I call any big hole a ravine. There's this great crevasse in front of him, and he can't see the bridge, and he's got to get to there, and he knows there's a bridge there, but he can't see it. And he has to take that next step in faith. That's what we're called to do. We don't know where we're going. It's not clear, but we're called in faith to just take that one step. And it might be the step that looks like we're walking right off the edge. But we take that one step, and God is with us. It's appropriate to name that we are grieving as a congregation. Last week we celebrated the Communion of Saints, and I found it interesting that I've had several people tell me how many names were on the list. I didn't count them, but now I know how many, because several people have told me how many names were on the list. And they weren't all congregation members. Some were friends of congregation members or extended family, but everybody was, or people were really affected by the fact that there were 32 names on the list. And we are affected that because in the last 2 weeks, we've lost 5 people. 4 current members and 1 past member. And so there's a lot of grief within the congregation right now. And I put this picture up. This is a picture from the 35th anniversary. And there's people on that picture that aren't here anymore. And that grieves us. It hurts to think of that. At the same time, just like I tell people in a memorial service, at the same time that we miss their physical presences, we are people of the resurrection. That know that death is not the end, but it is the time for a new beginning. After death comes new life. And so we look for the new life that is to come. We don't know what it's going to look like. So it's unsettling. But that's where our growth as Christians comes. It's in acting out of that hope and that faith. It's not a guarantee. It's not. But that's okay. Because we have a bigger guarantee. We have a bigger assurance. That if we're following God, things are going to work out. Paul's letter to the Corinthians talked about the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the living God, that we Our lives, how we live, tells the rest of the people around us what it means to be a Christian. When we act and live out of love, when we name that we are love and are meant to be loving to the world, then we're following God. And we'll know that next step. It's not about the letter of the law. It's about the spirit of love that is within us, that drives us on. So, this past week, in this spirit, everybody knows that Halloween is on October 31st. Except this year, the powers that be decided it was too dangerous for our children to be out on Thursday night and decided Halloween was going to be on Friday, November 1st. Well, I have my inner child, but my inner child also has an inner teenager. And when you tell me I can't do something, I just want to do it more. And so I went home, and because we're not home on Friday night, and we've got this big pot of candy, and I said to David, so we're going trick-or-treating tonight. And he says, oh, we are? How are we doing that? I said, well, we're doing reverse trick-or-treating. But we're going to go in the spirit of Halloween. Because the spirit of trick-or-treating when I was a kid was about community. You went to somebody's house, and the point of going to the house, yes, you got a treat. But the point of going to the house was to try to see if they could guess who you were. And our costumes didn't look like the costumes now. Like we didn't have our face was hidden. We were behind a mask. We disguised our voices. We tried everything to fool the person that was going to give us a treat. But that person also knew our name. They knew where we lived. They knew our parents. They knew everything about us. So I said, for our reverse trick-or-treating, we're going to go to the houses of the kids. And we're going to introduce ourselves because we don't know the names of all the kids on our street. And we are going to get to know them so that they know who we are. And that's what we did. And we had a lovely time. And it was lovely weather. It was 70 degrees and the wind was not bad. We were not in tornado warnings yet. The wind came, but not yet. It was lovely. We even got put on a Christmas cookie list. Now that I know my neighbor better. You know, it's about that. It's about building community. That's what we're called to do as Christians. And the world needs us now more than ever. We need to be the ones who remind people that Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, because I will give you rest." There is rest, there is comfort, there is strength here for you. We will hold each other in times of trial and in times of struggle. That's who we are. That's why we give to the church. We give to the church because we are doing ministry based on the gifts of our saints that have gone before us. And we are going to make sure that we continue to do our ministries and that our future church has choices because they're not going to be strapped for funds. So we're going to give so that to continue our current ministries and for the future ministries of the church. In that way, some people say, well, why do you do a commitment before you put out your budget? Well, in a way, it's not about the budget. It's about our relationship with God and making sure that there's always a place here for people to come and learn about Jesus, or that there's always ministries that go out into the world and help people to see Christ in our world. Because even I'm stuck on the idea that they got to come in. But it's about us going out. That's the difference. We have to go out and meet them where they are. And then we can tell them that this table is set for them. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what they believe about this. It doesn't matter whether they understand it or whether they already have a relationship with Jesus. All of that, what makes communion special is all on God. That is the Spirit working. We are just to invite people here to experience this, where one bread and one cup feed us all. And by communing together, we have this shared history, this shared experience that we can build off of. So may we go out into the world, acting out of our loving hearts, sharing Christ's love with all people. Amen.